Good evening, Oxnard. I'm David Marin, a member of the League of Women Voters of Ventura County. Tonight, we are bringing to you candidates debate with the candidates for Oxnard City Council District 4. There are 5 candidates running. We have 4 of them with us tonight. Hopefully the 5th will join. We'll have opening statements followed by responses to the questions that many of you submitted, and then we'll have closing statements. At this time, it's my pleasure to introduce the president of the League of Women Voters, Betsy Patterson.
Good evening. I'm happy to welcome you all on behalf of the League of Women Voters of Ventura County. 100 years ago, the 19th Amendment was ratified, giving women across the nation the right to vote. We hold the right to vote precious, since not all people were given that right in the original Constitution. And for 100 years, the League of Women Voters has been dedicated to encouraging civic engagement and informing voters about the candidates and the issues. From its beginning and continuing today, the League is a nonpartisan political organization. We do not support or oppose any candidate or political party. Each of us has a voice in our government, but only if we use our vote. To be informed voters, we must ask questions of the candidates and understand the pros and cons for each ballot proposition before we cast our vote. This is your opportunity as voters to learn about the candidates and where they stand on issues important to you. Thank you for joining us tonight. We hope you have many of your questions answered by the candidates, and please be sure to make a plan to vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Betsy. With that, we'll go ahead and get started with our program. Our first candidate is Lucy Cartagena. Lucy, whenever you're ready, you'll just have to click unmute and then you can begin. You have 1.5 minutes.
Hi, my name is Lucy Cartagena. My pronouns are she and her. I am from Mexicali, California, Baja California originally, and I was raised in the San Joaquin Valley. I came up to Oxnard in 1998 and 88, and I've had 4 children since, 2 girls, 2 boys, all adults now, and I was able to raise 14 that weren't mine. I have been extremely active in the community as PTA president for Channel Islands High School, and I hold Oxnard true and dear to my heart, and I consider myself an Oxnardian as well as my children. I am strong in the community, strong with our organization, and I have probably worked in different pathways with you in one form, shape, or another. I am running for City Council for District 4. I feel it's time to start now bringing the community strong and bringing us together to work on the issues as a whole. So I welcome your vote. Again, I am the only female running in District 4, and I really hope you support me. And please look me up at votelucycartagena.com and on Facebook and Instagram. And I look forward to meeting everybody. And like she said, please vote. Regardless of the outcome, become an informed voter and vote. Thank you very much, and I yield my time.
Thank you. And with that, we will move on to our next candidate, Brian McDonald.
Thank you, David. I'd like to thank you and the League of Women Voters for allowing me to participate in this tonight. My name is Brian McDonald. I spent 30 years here as a police officer for the city of Oxnard and retired about 14 years ago. And after that, decided I wanted to do something to continue public service. And so 12 years ago, got elected to Oxnard City Council. I'm very proud to say that I've been endorsed by the Oxnard Firefighters Association, Oxnard Peace Officers Association, Iron Workers Local 433, SEIU Local 721, or SEIU Local 721, Central Coast Labor Council, Oxnard Chamber of Commerce, Leuna Laborers Local 805, and Gold Coast Carpenters Local 805. I think I have a broad base of support. I've only been in the area since about 1974. I was born and raised in Santa Barbara, grew up there, moved down here in the early 70s, and fell in love with this area. So I'm still here. I want to do whatever I can to help make this the best city that we can be. And I'm looking forward to participating in this process. And all the people that are here are all friends of mine, so we'll get along very, very well. So I appreciate this opportunity. Thank you, David. Thank you, League of Women Voters.
Thank you, Brian. Our next candidate is Saul Medina. Saul, if we get you on mute.
Yeah.
There we go. Thank you.
Thank you for having me here. My name is Saul Medina. I'm a candidate for the 4th District for City Council. I've lived in Oxnard for over 40 years. I was a planning commissioner from 2005 to 2013, where I was proud to participate in the 2030 plan and the 2020 plan. I've also been able to spearhead some land use issues, some infill projects that came out pretty well. And recently I felt that Oxnard was going in the right direction. Unfortunately, recently in the last 2 to 3 years, it has really deteriorated. And I think there's a change that needs to be done. I want to be part of that change. One of the things that I wanted to do was clean up some of the places in Oxnard. This is a picture of one of the alleys that really motivated me that Oxnard was going in the wrong direction. We have tax initiatives that's going on for Oxnard. I was a supporter of Measure O back in 2008, so was Brian McDonald. That was supposed to help the budgets and help improve some of the traffic. Unfortunately, it has not done so. It has done some good things. It has provided $12 million to Oxnard College.
Stop you there, Sal. Yeah, and all candidates, remind you, if you're in gallery view, you'll be able to see the timer very easily. Jack, we're going to go to you and we'll have you unmute, and then we'll hear from you as far as your opening statement.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Perfect.
All right. Okay, thank you. Thank you to the League of Women Voters for allowing us to present ourselves. My name is Jack Villa. I was born and raised in Oxnard, retired 34 years with the U.S. Postal Service. My family settled here in 1916, so we've been here over 100 years, and I've put in over 43 years of voluntary service, whether it was youth, the workplace, the neighborhoods. I've been involved with the community. I was local union president for the Postal Service. I've been on the PAC task force. I served in the Ventura County Grand Jury. I am the chair to the Hobson Park Neighborhood Council. And also I am the chair to the Inter-Neighborhood Council organization. And with my background of knowing Oxnard the way it is, I believe it's time that the 4th District gets a new set of eyes, ears, and new engagement with the community.
You're on mute, David.
Sorry, thank you. We'll try that again. It's the first one I've ever done. No. Brian, first question to you. As far as parking, it's a problem throughout many neighborhoods in Oxnard, some of the locations. We'd like to hear from you. What are your specific plans to address the parking problems that are plaguing many neighborhoods in the district?
Was that for me, David? I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I
yes.
missed the first part.
Yes, Brian.
You know, it's a very challenging question, and a lot of it we're faced with state regulations where they're now mandating us to allow multi-unit residential units on single lots, which just exacerbates the parking. We've lost a lot of the local control. I don't think that writing tickets is the answer, to be perfectly honest. That just penalizes people. We really need a smarter approach to find some way to park vehicles either on the property or in adjacent parking areas to help alleviate the parking crunch on the street. I apologize. I just don't really have a good answer for that because it's problematic throughout the city. And we've tried parking permit programs, which have failed miserably because we don't have the staff able to enforce the permits. We've tried talking with residents to get them to move their car, and even on street sweeping days. And now one of the things we're seeing is that local businesses like wrecking yards, so to speak, are moving their business into their house and dragging cars home, dismantling them, and code compliance has been busier than the devil trying to mitigate that. I wish I had a better answer for you. If I did, I'd be a rich man. But it's just one of those things that it goes back to the planning process. And when you have to plan and give concessions to planners for parking concessions, it's a no-win situation.
Okay, thank you. Jack, we'll go to you next.
Thank you, David. Yes, in my campaign, I've been going door to door, and I've been seeing the overcrowdedness in the neighborhood, especially District 4. But when I go through the alleys and through the properties, meeting the voters, you see quite a few cars for each property. And a lot of them, they're not drivable, they're not, their registrations is past due, and they have vehicles that shouldn't be actually, they're not operable for one reason or another. And the alleys have been crowded with these kind of vehicles. And we need some type of code enforcement that can get these vehicles out of alleys and out of some of the properties that cause congestion. That's one of my ideas, but it's like Brian said, it's a very difficult problem. When you have 2-3 families in one house, and 6-7 workers in a house, you're going to have a lot of vehicles, and some neighborhoods can't handle that amount of vehicles.
Thank you, Jack. Lucy, same question to you. What are your plans to alleviate the parking problems that are plaguing many neighborhoods in your district?
Well, as my incumbent had said, the part of the parking problem is that the city of Oxnard outsources it. So I think I would like to bring those monies back to Oxnard instead of outsourcing it to Anaheim and everywhere else we're sending those ticket money. So let's bring some of that money back. And some things as easy as hiring more code enforcement. We already hire extra for homeless. Why not do the same pattern and hire more code enforcement to every neighborhood so they can generate money? Because that's what they're going to do. They're going to generate money through the ticketing process. There's nothing we can do about poor people having to bundle up together, but there is smart things we can do as an education on parking. Simple things don't require money. So I think we don't give the community enough, we don't give them enough respect to know that they know how to park or don't know how to park. We don't have to bulldoze everything, and we don't have to ticket it down. We could really just work our neighborhood smarter to help alleviate that parking. There's simple things we can do and we should do as a community. And we don't have to ticket everybody to death, and we don't have to point fingers at everything. We can just really work, build up community, so that we understand. Most people respect a neighbor. So from a neighbor to a neighbor, you were more than likely to be respectful to your neighbor's property. Thank you.
Thank you. Saul, same question to you. What plans do you have to alleviate parking issues?
Thank you for asking me that question, David. I think it's a better use of our alleys. I live in Bartola Square, and we have alleys that are underutilized and under maintenance. I think we need to bring back neighborhood cleanups. They didn't really have some this year because of COVID, but it's definitely an area that we can use parking and allocate certain parkings to vehicles that need it, and also scatter it so it also reduces the fact of having it either on one side only, that way fire trucks can still get there, but also making it more of a livable area. So I definitely think that parking is an issue. When I lived in Rose Park, one of the things that I was able to do as a neighborhood council was help go to the city council and help put the street sweeping sign. That's one of the areas. But the other areas that I'm really proud of the current neighborhood in Bartola Square, North and South and Kamala, is the fact that there's alleys that are underutilized, and being able to have incentives such as turning in their vehicles in order to get a reduced fee for their water and trash, like a cash for clunkers situation, is something that the city needs to relook at and invest in to make sure that we address the vehicles that are not operational. Thank you.
Thank you. Saul, we're going to stay with you for the beginning of the next question. And one of the concerns that many people in Oxnard deal with is the airport. First, there's increased noise and air pollution, and also there's also the concern now that the Camarillo Airport may expand. Now, airports are somewhat governed by the county, but as a city council person, what would be your policies? What would be your approach to dealing with unwanted airport noise and pollution?
Well, I would hope that Camarillo takes on being the regional airport because of their accessibility. That way, it would alleviate to have two airports at the same juncture. It would also possibly alleviate the opportunity to expand in that area, to redevelop the Oxnard Airport if it was decommissioned. But again, that takes a long process. But overall, if more traffic is geared towards Camarillo for private helicopter rides, which you know, when Kobe Bryant passed away, he was actually going to the Camarillo Airport to be dropped off. So it's better utilized for Camarillo to be more of a regional airport than Oxnard, which is in the middle of town. So I definitely would push to have Camarillo Airport take more of that kind of a position and try to reduce the size of Oxnard's airport. That way we would alleviate the pollution in the city of Oxnard and also open up development for that airport property if it was decommissioned. That's what I would look forward to.
Okay, thank you. Lucy, we'll go to you next as far as share with us your views about the Oxnard Airport, Camarillo Airport, and what you think are the right policies to reduce noise and pollution.
I didn't hear about the Camarillo Airport expanding, but that's extremely concerning to me only because there's 5 schools located there. I don't think Sal is aware that we have Frontier High School, Gateway, ACE, and we also have training there, and we have probation there, and we used to have ICE there. So for it to expand, it's more populated than even Oxnard's. Oxnard's has nothing around it. We have a couple houses and now empty schools, and we have the Armory, and that's it. I know we were asked to leave by the county for the Armory, but there is no proof that they've asked anybody, but we have to take the council's word for it. But we have no paper stating that we have to leave. Other than that, Oxnard really doesn't have it. It's just a landing strip. So I don't know about what noise and pollution and everything, but I live right on 5th Street and I'm fine. I'm fine. So I haven't seen anything that would move me to make such bold moves. It's not that utilized, it's just a landing strip and nothing really comes in and out of there.
Thank you. Brian, same question to you. What are your thoughts about managing the Oxnard Airport and also the Camarillo Airport, especially reducing noise and pollution?
Well, I'm keenly aware of the Oxnard Airport since I live right in the flight path, so I see just about every plane that comes in and hear it. I have periodic conversations with the airport manager and Supervisor Zaragoza, but I think there are a couple simple things that can be done. In Oxnard right now, the landing approach is from the east into the airport and the takeoff is to the west. And they could go to a modified system like LAX has where everything takes off and lands in the same direction. Usually at LAX, people take off out over the water and then loop around and do that. In Oxnard Airport to the west, there's virtually nothing there other than farm fields, a decommissioned power plant, not a lot of homes, and it's wide open. So I think they could easily change that. In terms of shifting a lot of the business to Camarillo, if memory serves me correctly, when Camarillo first got that airport, when the county first got that airport, they signed an agreement with the city of Camarillo, said there would be no commercial traffic in or out of there, and the people of Camarillo jealously protect that effort not to have things come in. I know at one time there was talk about trying to make a regional airport out of Point Mugu and decommission Oxnard altogether, but that just didn't pan out. So I think there are some simple options the county could entertain, and the city should be willing to work with them on that.
Thank you. Jack, same question to you. What are your thoughts about managing the airport and dealing with pollution, noise, and also Camarillo expansion?
Yes, well, being the chair to Hobson Park East and being in the flight pattern as well, I believe all five of us are in the flight pattern. We all live near there. I, as neighborhood chair, have never heard complaints of air noise or helicopter noise. In fact, my wife likes the sound of an airplane going over her head, but with a city with over 200,000 people, I think it's best to hold on to the airport and maybe work with the county a lot closer on exactly how it could benefit Oxnard. And as far as Camarillo, like Brian said, I don't believe the residents in Camarillo want a commercial airline going through there, and like Lucy said, there's schools there, so I don't think an expansion in Camarillo will help happen. But with Oxnard with 200,000 people, I think we should keep it as it is and look for other ways to help businesses go in there as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Jack, I'm going to stay with you for the next question, though. You'll be first on this, and we'll start talking about the environment and specifically climate change. Question is about scientists certainly believe that the effects of emissions are irreversible. There's two parts to this question. What do you think the city should do to adapt to climate change? And are there certain things that you would prioritize to curb emissions?
Yes, thank you. I think the city has a role in the environment, businesses, individuals. We all have a hand in this, and also working with the county as far as clean air and businesses accommodating the environment. This is a issue that's been very hot lately, as far as greenhouse effects, and I think the city should do its part and whatever we can, increase transportation, busing, and so forth. Yeah.
Okay. I think we still have Saul with us. We'll see if he's here.
Yes.
Saul, you're back? Okay.
Yeah.
And candidates, I remind you, it's being recorded, so it certainly looks better if you're able to stay online the entire time with your video, so nobody's wondering what happened. Saul, same question to you. As far as the effects of carbon emissions and climate change, what would you do? What would be your policies to help Oxnard adapt to climate change? And what policies would you do to try and limit the changes?
Well, I definitely believe in climate change. It is a proven science. I think Oxnard has been ahead of the curve with the bus that have been able to go to gas emissions to reduce. I think the other area that Oxnard can improve on is having bikes, such as in Camarillo, in San Francisco, and especially in Long Beach, where the bikes are kind of like a ride share, and being able to improve that so people could be mobile in doing that. I think there's enough of the gas tax in order to do that and to encourage more ride share. The other areas is they have been moving the city vehicles into hybrids and making sure that we reduce our carbon imprint. I think Oxnard's also recycle a lot of the water to make sure that we can reclaim and make sure that we have enough water to last us. The other thing that I would work on is work with the county in order to reduce some of the fracking that's been occurring within the city limits or just beyond the city limits, because they have a tendency to pollute the water and the aquifers, which then will affect our agricultural business. So I definitely think it's important that the city look not only above the ground, but underneath the ground to resolve these issues. And I want to be able to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Lucy, same question to you as far as what policies would you like to see put in place to help adapt to climate change and also to try and control climate change?
Well, I think one thing about Oxnard, what I see different from the other candidates is that Oxnard is not very pedestrian friendly, for one. We did this sort of example of trying to go just down our district on District 4 on 5th Street, and we had to put hay bales so that people can ride their bikes. So for one, Oxnard is not pedestrian friendly. People are constantly getting killed by hit and run. I think that would be the first thing. Just make it pedestrian friendly so that people would want to ride their bikes. And then another thing would be, let's stop ticketing people without a helmet. That could be another one, because our children are being ticketed riding to school or riding places for not having a helmet. So we have to be pedestrian friendly. And if we start there, then we can start, that helps the climate change, because we do have a lot of things and we do need to keep our officials up to date on policy changing in all environmental, not just fracking, not just electrical, not just water, but in everything. We have to be vigilant and educate the community. That should be first and foremost, just educating them on what climate change is and what it looks like and what we can do as a community to prevent it.
Thank you. Jack, we're going to go to you for the next question. And this is becoming a big issue in certain cities. Certainly Oxnard is looking at this closely, and that is the issue of cannabis. So Jack, if you're elected, what is your position on retail cannabis coming to Oxnard? What do you think is the right way to implement policies for local dispensaries? And just share with us your views and policies.
Thank you. Well, cannabis, I believe it's here to stay. I think now how we implement the sale and the production of it is another issue. And I believe getting the stakeholders together, the residents, the businesses, and the individuals in the business, and then also monies coming from the cannabis industry can help. The tax can also help with different items that the city is looking to finance, whether it's the youth or seniors. I think like a 1 or 2% would help some of those issues in the city as far as youth and seniors and libraries and so on. And also the stakeholders should be brought together and come together with council and staff and to come up with ideas on how to benefit the city the most.
Thank you. Lucy, same question to you. What would be the specific policies you think should be implemented if cannabis is going to be sold in Oxnard?
Well, I think first and foremost, cannabis should be sold in Oxnard. For us not to utilize that and take advantage of it is very unprogressive on our part. That should have been happening 5 years ago. We shouldn't even be having this topic. We should already be implemented. So what policies would I like to see? Something as easy as what Colorado has and what other cities are doing. It's not very hard. I mean, they're not doing rocket scientist policies. They're just implementing safe policies so that it protects the surrounding neighborhood. I think the one thing that Oxnard is strong about is the NIMBY, not in my backyard. So we are losing funds, we're losing resources, and we're not being smart on being able to utilize something as simple that helps save cancer victims, something as simple that helps dialysis victims, something as simple that helps PTSD and mental health. So we should be taking advantage of it and implementing smart policy. It's not hard policy, just smart policy. And that's what we need to be looking at.
Thank you. Okay, Saul, let's hear your thoughts about the proper way to manage and policies regarding cannabis.
Thank you. I think this is one of the biggest issues that the city faces. You know, the city council and the city manager are pushing a big Measure E for taxes that's infinity. Now, if the city of Oxnard would have done exactly the same as Port Hueneme, they would have been able to balance and have excess money in order to fund their projects. And their go slow approach has not worked. The fact is that Oxnard residents are going to Port Hueneme and giving them the income for that. Cannabis is here to stay. The fact that they were number 10 in the agricultural production here in Ventura County shows you that there is a booming industry. And that's with the moratorium. What they're moving towards is to have these products done in a warehouse, in a greenhouse. And most likely, if voters allow that in Ventura County, that's going to occur. The city of Oxnard is going to give 10 permits. 2 are going to be set aside for Oxnard businesses, but there's 50 people that already have applied. So there's going to be, you know, a selection process. And we need to have somebody who thinks out of the box, not this take slow approach, which really has hurt the city of Oxnard's ability to really reap the rewards of having these permits. That has been approved by voters. Thank you.
Thank you, Sal. And Brian, we'll wrap up this question with you. What are your positions on cannabis in Oxnard, retail cannabis?
I was kind of hoping to get into climate change, but that didn't happen. So we'll go in this. And if you'd asked me this question about 15 or 20 years ago, I'd have had a completely different answer. But I think back to my family, and my grandmother was born and raised in Chihuahua, Mexico, and moved here in the early 1900s. And it's not unusual in the Mexican culture to find cannabis in a jar of rubbing alcohol or whatever, and they use it as a topical analgesic. They've been doing it for centuries. And so all the stuff I was previously taught about being the devil weed and a gateway drug and everything else, in my mind, no longer is true. It just doesn't happen. It could have a very legitimate use. And I think this is the time we move forward. Oxnard did take a go slow approach because Colorado was faced with some challenges. Even Port Hueneme had some challenges. And while we're looking at moving forward and being successful in this, we didn't want to replicate their problem issues that developed in both those locations. So I think we're on the right track. I agree with the social equity part of it, of making sure that some of the local Oxnard people can participate in this, so that we just don't have a flood of out of area people coming in and taking over something that really local people should be able to participate in. So I think we're on the right track. We should be making the decisions pretty quickly here, move forward, and be successful from the first go around. So,
thank you, Brian. And nice to have all of you candidates on the screen at once. Lucy, we're going to go ahead and start with you on the next question. The city, just like many cities throughout the state, have been hammered by COVID. Local businesses are struggling. If you're elected, what are some of the strategies that you think the council needs to put in place to take care of the local economy and also support the city and deal with services and budget of the city?
Well, I think one thing that the city of Oxnard lacks is self-sustainability. I think we need to implement more self-sustainability. And that's what happens in every city. When you have less self-sustainability, that's where the cracks come in. So if we're not already building up our communities, we can take our downtown District 4, for an example. That's a downtown area that has been neglected for too long. It's half ghost town, half business, half empty lot, and half empty buildings. I mean, self-sustainability is the key, because if we're self-sustainable, then we don't feel the bloat. We don't shop local, we invite big brands, and when they belly up, we have problems. So that's where we need to really work on, to self-sustain and to build in policies that keep local strong. Just make it stronger locally and self-sustain. That would be my approach.
Thank you. Brian, same question to you on COVID, and I do want to apologize for not giving you a chance to speak on climate. I'll try and give you a moment on that a little bit.
I'm good. That's okay, David. Thank you very much. I'm sorry about taking a jab at you there.
No, that was my fault. That was totally my fault. I'm sure I'm going to have my pay docked, but that's okay. Brian,
Yeah.
Let's talk about COVID, though. This is impacting
Sure.
local businesses. It's impacting the city's budget. Tell us your plans to deal with this in the future if you're elected.
And COVID has been a challenge. This is a whole new world for us. We don't even still know where it's going to take us. And there's so many different things going on with that. But I think what we need to emphasize to people is that although COVID has affected us, we still need to remember to invest in our local community. My family and one other family used to have Friday night dinners out every chance we got. Every Friday night it was our family night. We don't do that anymore because we're worried about, potentially getting something that we bring home to my mother-in-law or whoever else. So, but there are still ways to invest in the local community, like call the local restaurants that are still operational, order dinner from them and pick it up and take it home and help them to survive. It's so easy just to lock yourself in your house, throw away the key and not do anything. And that just is not good for the community. So we need to get the community to understand that our business community is dependent upon us to help support them. And when we support the business community can help support the city through sales tax revenue or what have you. It's just, and to me, it's a very simple answer. And also reaching out to the local restaurants or businesses or what have you and saying, what can we do to assist you to help you get through the permit process a little quicker or help you set up an outdoor eating area? I know Tomas Cafe on South A Street has the outdoor eating area. They had it before COVID struck. But they were in a better position to take advantage of it. I think it's things like that that are important, that we have to remember we're all the same community. We need to support ourselves.
Thank you. Saul, same question to you. How we help the local economy recover from COVID, and what are your strategies for the actual city and its budget to deal with COVID?
Okay. Well, the first part, as an essential worker, I know what we have to do: wash our hands, wear a face mask, and social distance. And I think the county has done a wonderful job of the website of Ventura County Strong, not only in English, but in Spanish, right? To have the information. Unfortunately, the biggest number of positive COVIDs are located in 93030, which is the majority of the 4th district. And I think if I was elected at this point, I would be working with the local clinics to spread more information, either electronically or having the information on the water bill to provide that information to local residents. We also have to do our part at city services. Some of them have been working remotely. The other part is to help them apply for some of those loans that they have. They were able to do that. I'm a small business owner in downtown Oxnard in the 4th district. I have an office with Sam Heredia there, a Gold Coast therapist, and I know what the struggle is to make sure that we get our ends meet. And part of that is partnering with other areas so we can make sure that that's a sustainable business for the downtown. But doing that is by communication and rolling up our sleeves.
Thank you. Jack, we'll wrap up the question with you. Your thoughts about helping the economy recover from COVID, your thoughts about the city managing its own budget dealing with COVID recovery.
Yes, I believe the COVID, we need to expand the communication and education of COVID and the county's guidelines on COVID, and helping businesses adapt their businesses to the guidelines of the county so they can operate. If you go to Ventura on Main Street, it looks like business hasn't stopped at all. And if you go to Camarillo, you see that their restaurants, the attendance there is still the same. They haven't slowed down one bit. But we need to educate our businesses and helping them, educate them in how the county's guidelines, and to just to continue the businesses that we have, but within the guidelines of the county. And it looks like Camarillo and Ventura doesn't look like they've missed a step. But Oxnard seems to be struggling through this time period, and it shouldn't be. We should be working with educating all the businesses on what they can do to improve their businesses during this time.
Thank you. Brian, we're going to have a new question, but before we do that, I would like to give you a chance if you wish to address climate change regarding
I'm good, David. Let's just go ahead. Life's too short to get upset about little things.
Well, let's talk about the housing in Oxnard. Over the years, Oxnard has added a substantial number of new housing units. Do you feel the city's been able to balance that appropriately? And more to the question also is, what is your view going forward of the right mix of housing? How would you bring in more affordable housing?
Well, I sit on a board called Las Cortes, and we are an affordable housing developer. We're a 501c3 under the housing department, and we partner with the private sector to bring in tax credits, buy vacant property or old decrepit property and rehabilitate it. We've done Las Cortes or Paseo Nuevo in the south end off of Cypress Road. We are the group that's redoing all of the housing units on First Street from Amelia through Eliza Court to give people affordable, decent housing. That housing stock was just worn out. We've also done other projects in La Colonia. I think the key is, and I don't want to see us go back to, and when I grew up in the 50s, you took all the low and moderate income housing and you put it into a certain area. And this is even in Santa Barbara, and we used to call it the projects. You'd go in, it would be all the same housing, didn't look great, wasn't well maintained. And there's a model now called inclusionary housing, where you can take the same type of housing product and include it in market rate neighborhoods. You can't tell the difference when you're looking at it, other than there are controls on the property to keep it affordable. And I think that's the way to move forward. River Park has been following that model for a while, where there's a lot of inclusionary housing products there. People deserve a good place to live at a reasonable price. And unfortunately, California is very, very expensive.
Okay, thank you. Jack, we're going to go to you next. As far as housing, share with us your view about the amount of housing that's happened in Oxnard recently, and also what you think should be the proper approach going forward to provide more affordable housing.
Yes, we are grossly behind in providing housing for low-income families. In our neighborhood, in District 4, it's very easy to, almost every other house has 2 or 3 families, 6 or 7 adults, and living in one house. And also, now parents are having their children stay home longer because they can't afford apartments or low income housing. They're like stuck with their parents and they have nowhere to go. But I believe we should be accelerating the housing market, mixed use, combination of mixed use, low income housing. Downtown, I believe it should be, we had a charrette in downtown that had mixed plan for or ideas for mixed use. I believe those should be implemented. And there's other areas in Oxnard I think we can take advantage of in creating low income housing.
Thank you. Lucy, same question to you. What are your policies or the programs you would push to increase affordable housing and deal with the housing that Oxnard already has built?
Well, I think I'm going to go and piggyback off of Jack Diaz. Oxnard is sadly very under the state guidelines of low-income housing. And policies are simple ones. We can change ADUs. I know the state, Oxnard waits until the state changes things for them to move. I think we're not progressive for one. We need to move forward at a quicker pace for other things, especially permits and planning process. The ADUs can be changed where we can allow micro homes, tiny homes. We can allow extra housing in unit. There's a lot of different things we can do. Even something as simple as RV spaces too, because we only have one RV space, but yet the city has no RV dump waste site. So we have homeless people dumping their waste in the city, in city streets. So there's a lot of different things we should and could and policies we can implement that are simple and that won't cost us $1 million. Now, the low income units that we do serve that Mr. Brian McDonald sits on, the Las Cortezes, they are only for people once you get in. So once you get in, it's very hard. We have a 2-year waiting list for some of those places. That's things we need to change. That's what I like to change.
Okay, thank you. Saul, same question to you. What are your thoughts and policies regarding affordable housing?
Well, I think Oxnard is the only city in Ventura County that has met their housing needs, because we're not being sued by the state for lack of housing and development, and that's rest assured. We do have a mixed use projects that we've had. You know, the Cortez Inc. was developed by Sal Gonzalez and also Arturo Casillas in order to make that project whole. But there's other developers like Vince Daly's group that was able to make the drive-in and the old drive-in on 5 Points into housing. They also made an apartment complex right across from Oxnard College. It was a vacant lot next to Amar Ranch, and now there's housing there. So I think Oxnard has been ahead of the curve on how to do that. When they developed the collections, there was going to be 2 towers, 22-story towers with housing. They were able to develop it and flatten it out and make 5-story apartments, which is the same density in the same housing. So we have to think outside the box. Oxnard has done their fair share. The fact is, the other surrounding cities like Ventura, Camarillo, Thousand Oaks, and even in Fillmore, where they're getting sued for not providing housing, you know, we're subsidizing them because they're not doing that. So we need to do a better job working with our surrounding cities.
Thank you, Saul. We're going to stay with you for the next question, Saul. So the city has been through, over the years, a lot of challenges regarding finances, management, issues of how all of the accounting has been managed. Even there's been some questions with the treasurer and the finance officer. So share with us your views about the proper way to manage the city, the way to increase transparency. Do you think that the elected treasurer is the proper way to go in the way he interacts with the city finance office?
You know, I think the treasurer, the finance, and the city manager have to work together. And that's a triad, that's a check and balances. On top of that should be the city council. And part of the issue that I think is the city of Oxnard, because it needs to follow PEPRA, it needs to follow the other guidelines, which recently was developed, the Alameda lawsuit that settled, and being able to make sure that the public safety employees are paying their fair share into their pensions and not being subsidized by Measure O or by Measure E as they want to. The city needs to be able to be more transparent, have that information out of how much certain classifications are paid, and have that on the website. So it's very important to have a transparency. I think the city manager should be managing that, as well as the treasurers with their role, and being able to make sure that they're able to balance the budgets and not just pitch a sales tax that's infinitive for their poor management. Because I'll tell you what, as soon as the city manager contract is over, he'll disappear. But then we'll have somebody else that will have the same problem. So the issue is to hold them accountable for the lack of transparency and fix the problem other than kicking the can or telling the taxpayers to pay the bills.
Thank you, Sal. Lucy, same question to you as far as the city's management of its finances, its transparency, the issues with the treasurer and the finance office. Share with us your thoughts.
I don't really have an issue with the treasurer, or what I have is lack of transparency in our city. I think our current city council should have been a little bit more transparent with the community. Whatever happened behind closed doors that trickles out to the community, where we hear rumors and we're not privy to all that information. So whatever is happening behind those closed doors that has trickled out to the community in this type of, now where there's rumors, and now where it comes out to political platforms where you're asking questions of future candidates about rumors going on in city council, that's not a good thing. And that's what the voters should see. When things like this happen, it just shows the transparency wasn't there, or we would know what we should be voting and not voting for. So the transparency in Oxnard has been very closed for a very, very long time. Our current city officials have not been transparent in any way, shape, or form. We literally have to go and bulldoze information, or we as the citizens have to go and request public information just to get answers, because those are our tax dollars, and we want to know where they're being funded and where they're being going to and where they're not going to. So I don't believe about kicking the can, whatever, down the road. I just believe accountability comes with transparency. Thank you.
Thank you. Brian, same question as far as your thoughts about the way city's managing the challenges it's had as far as finances, increasing transparency, issues with the treasurer and the city finance office.
Well, I agree wholeheartedly about transparency, and I will tell you that this is one of the reasons we're moving to the ERP program to get away from HPE, because it is much more workable in terms of transparency and allows people to go in and see what's in there. HTE is a very challenging system to work with, although there are some people that like it a lot. I would caution people to not be taking at face value a lot of the information that's being floated out there. That's disinformation. And recently there were several emails from different people saying that Oxnard hasn't reported its salaries to the state. We had reported them to the state, but the state hadn't accepted them yet. But if you go online to our website, you can find the salaries effective as of July of 2020 on our website. The salaries are there. We haven't hidden anything. But somebody says, you know, the information reported to the state's a year old that hasn't been posted. So we're putting more stuff on our website. We need to convince the people that we're being good stewards of their money. And people have said things about rumors. I would challenge anyone, if you've heard a rumor, call us and challenge us about that rumor. Call us and ask us and expect an answer that is a good answer. And, you know, don't just accept the rumor, oh, that must be what's going on, because a lot of times that's not the truth. And any city official, our treasurer, our finance director, our city manager, a council member should be able to answer you. And if they can't, they should darn well get the answer and bring it back to you immediately.
Thank you, Brian. Jack, same question. We'll wrap up with you about the city's finances, transparency, treasurer, and the finance office. Your thoughts, please.
Yes, the city desperately needs more transparency. There's got to be a checks and balances in the accounting of the city. There's got to be accountability. Measure E proves, the proponents for Measure E proves that they want a unwritten, blank check forever. I don't understand that. They talk about that we should trust our city officials, that we should trust our staff. But I think it's the other way around. The staff in the city should trust the residents as far as giving them the money they need when they need it. And we should have a say in how that money is spent. Right now, Measure E does not have an end date, and there's no specifics on how that money is going to be spent. We have a city manager. I know he means well, but there's no guarantee we'll have that city manager 5 years from now. There's no guarantee of what the makeup of the council will be 5 years from now. So there's a lot of unknowns, but one thing we should know is that we have transparency. We have and the residents have control of the accounting. With Measure E, we won't. It'll be forever.
Thank you, Jack. Jack, I'm going to start the next question with you and candidates. This will be the last question for the evening. Jack, if you're elected, tell us about what your 1 or 2 top priorities are and how you'd actually accomplish them. And also share with us what you think sets you apart from your opponents.
Yes, thank you. Being born and raised here, and I've been active for 43 years. I've been involved with the city in one capacity or another with the city, whether it was schools, youth, the neighborhoods, the arts, you name it, I was involved in it. And I believe it's time that we have a new ear, we have a new voice, and we have a new engagement. And one of my ideas is, or promises is to be engaged, better engaged with the residents of the city of Oxnard. There in Oxnard, the last few years, there's been 100 to 120 neighborhood councils. They should be packed with city council people, but we don't see city council engaging with the public in neighborhood council meetings. We'll be lucky if we get 1, but there should be at least 3 in each neighborhood council. If I can go to every neighborhood council in the city, council can too. And I think we need a better engagement. Safety also is very important, but I would emphasize on putting investment in the youth.
Thank you, Jack.
Also the homeless as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Saul, same question. What would be one of your top 1 or 2 priorities? How would you accomplish them? And what do you think sets you apart from your opponents?
Thank you, David. First one is to address the high number of COVID cases, because I think the city council working together with the county can really do a better job of education in this area, and enforcement and education. If numbers go up, they're going to go up historically in the 4th district. So you need to do a better job in doing that. That's number 1, because not only just it affects Oxnard and it affects all Ventura County. Number 2 is traffic. The traffic on Rose needs to be addressed. We need to take big trucks out of Rose between the times of 6 o'clock in the morning and 9 o'clock in the morning, and from 3 o'clock in the afternoon through 6. You can do that with an ordinance, and the city council is the way to go to do that. Number 3 is the economy and jobs and bringing those in. So if Measure O passes, or we have more revenue because of the cannabis sales that are going to occur, then we need to do a better job of managing those funds as well. Housing is another thing. We need to reinvest in downtown Oxnard. Also the Performing Arts Center that has been shut down, that needs to be a centerpiece to the city of Oxnard, and also the Center Point Mall. So we need to be able to make sure that we look at our resources and do a better job of what we have.
Thank you, Saul. So, Brian, same question to you. If you're elected, what would be one of your top priorities, maybe 2 priorities? How would you accomplish them? And also, what do you think sets you apart from your opponents?
Looking at public safety, and I look at it from the full spectrum of not only police, but also fire. We need a police department that's known by the community. And right now, I don't see that happening. They need to be aware of the community needs to be aware of them. And I think it was Sir Robert Peel said the police are the community and the community are the police. And we've lost that connection because we've kind of stepped a little bit away from community-oriented policing and problem solving. We need to go back to that. But on the other side, I think we need to look at our fire department and the service it provides to our community And Oxnard is 1/4 of the county's population, about 215,000 people. We don't have a trauma center in this city. The trauma center is either in Ventura or in Thousand Oaks. And so if something happens to a resident here in Oxnard, especially a resident in the southern part of town, that is life-threatening, that resident is going to be transported to VCMC, where realistically, I think they should go to the nearest hospital, St. John's. I think it was a disservice to us not to select St. John's as a trauma center here in Oxnard. It should happen here. It should be here. And I think it's unfair that our residents, the more severely you're injured, the farther you have to travel to get life-saving support. It's just not right. It should be happening within our own community. And so if I'm fortunate enough to have another opportunity to do this, it's going to be taking a look at that whole system and seeing what we can do to make sure we provide the right service to our community.
Thank you. Lucy, we'll wrap up with you. What would be one or two of your top priorities? How would you accomplish them? And also, what do you think sets you apart from your opponents?
My top priorities are homelessness and the city's aesthetic. What sets me apart from everything is that I do have background in the homeless. And unlike some of my opponents, they're not boots on the ground. I am boots on the ground. I work up my community. I don't come up and run and disappear. I am here for the long haul. I've implemented a lot of different changes through Oxnard, which I know nobody can deny. I did Reading in the Park, where we want to install free little libraries all throughout the city and the park. And I also do free book fairs in the city. I am currently doing sensory gardens throughout the city on vacant lots. I'm not doing it because I'm running. I'm doing it because I've been doing it. So that's one thing that sets me apart from my candidate, is that I don't talk about it, give a pipe dream, and then say what we can, should, and do. I do it. And I want to continue to do it in a bigger capacity. As a council member, I will be able to really take on issues that are important to our city. As a council member, I will be able to implement and help do policy change on those things that are needed for our community as a whole, not just my district, but as a whole. Because what I do in a small capacity, just imagine as a council member what I can do for our community in a bigger capacity. And that's what I want to remind everybody, is I'm not going to talk about it come November, then what? I will still be here. That's what I want you to remember. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to go ahead and begin with our closing statements. We'll do this in the reverse order from earlier tonight. Our first candidate tonight will be Jack Villa for 1.5 minutes. Whenever you're ready, Jack.
Thank you, David. I'm asking the voters to vote for me because I've dedicated 43 years of voluntary service. And after this election, I'll probably still be volunteering. That's in my makeup. My makeup is to serve. And I'm asking the residents of Ventura or Oxnard, the 4th District, to invest their vote in me. I've been engaged with the neighborhoods for a long time. I know District 4. I was born and raised in District 4, played Little League in Sunset, went to Driffle, went to Haydock. I know a lot of the families that still live in District 4. And I want the residents to have faith that I can do the job, to have a new set of eyes, a new set of ears, and a better engagement with the community. I've been involved with the arts, the neighborhoods, the workplace, and there's probably no issue that I haven't come across during my 43 years as a volunteer in the city. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack. Our next candidate is Saul Medina.
Thank you. I really think Oxnard's in due for a change. If you like traffic congestions, the alleys deteriorating, parks not being watered or cut or maintained, then vote for the incumbent. But myself, I want change especially in the 4th District. I played flag football on Beck Park. I went to Beck Park and there's nothing but grass that is dead, yellow, unkept. That's not Oxnard. We have the great water system to be able to water. We have purple water. I don't understand why we can't even water it. When I saw one of the budgets, they said they can't even afford to pay for the water to water the grass. That's ridiculous. And that's why we need a change. When I was on the Planning Commission, I read all my material. I asked the questions behind the scenes and in front of the cameras. They knew if it was printed and it was given to me, that I would read it and I would ask questions, because that's the kind of planning commissioner I was. When it was about traffic, when it was about bonus density, was about all those things, I asked those questions. As your next, hopefully, city council person, I will do that to make sure that we reduce traffic, take weeds out of the medians and parks, and make sure that Oxnard is the beacon of Ventura County, other than what it has become at this point. Oxnard does not end from Gonzales going north. It starts
Thank
all
you,
of it.
Sal. Gonna have to stop you there. And next we'll have Brian McDonald.
Thank you, David. You know, people need to remember that being on city council is like being on a team. It's a team sport. And as much as I would love to say I'm going to do this, that, and the other thing as a single council member, I've got to get 3 other council members or the mayor or whoever to agree with me and help support me to be able to pull something off. You know, it's just, that's the way of life. So it's a matter of coming up with something. And I agree with everything that's been said. Our parks are atrocious. The water, we're not watering. The problem with the great water is it only goes to certain areas of town. We can't even get it to most of the parks now. You know, when I retired, I told my wife, we can live anywhere we want. We're comfortable. Where do you want to move to? And she said, we're here. And so that's why I've stayed in Austin. And the one thing that I've been working on almost my entire elected career is Halleck and getting rid of that toxic waste dump and that huge pile of stuff down there. And EPA's answer so far has been, let's just cap it and leave it there. We don't care about it. And I said, I care about it. I want it gone. I have a plan. We have a plan. We've developed it with the state, with EPA involved, and with a private vendor. We can move the majority of that material out of there in about a 7-year period and return that land to its natural state. That's what this community needs, is something like that. But it's not been an easy process. And that's one of the reasons I'm looking at one additional term, is that I would love to see this come to fruition. We're very, very close. I'd love to see that happen. I hope that I get an opportunity to finish that project up. So thank you, David.
Thank you. And our last candidate tonight will be Lucy Cartagena.
Okay, what was the question again? I got lost.
This is your closing statement.
Okay, so again, my name is Lucy Cartagena. I'm running for District 4 City Council. I'm asking for your vote because, again, I am boots on the ground. I work collaboratively with many organizations. I do not have a problem sitting on a council with other people because I already know them and they know what I can and can't do. Again, I'm not going to talk about it. I'm going to be about it and I'm going to do it. Sitting as a council member or not, I do know I can revitalize those neighborhood meetings. As Jack said, there's 127 neighborhood councils. Most of them are lucky if they get 5 neighbors to a meeting. So we have to change that. And I can be the person to change that. And we have to change the way our neighborhoods are built and the makeup. We have to change our CAG. Those are our checks and balances of our city. We need to start being able to give those citizens advisory groups the teeth they need because they are the community speaking. And when we don't listen to them on council, there's a problem. So that's something that we need to change. We need to work. I was very disappointed that we did not even bring up homelessness on this side. Homelessness is the #1 issue in Oxnard, in the county, in the state, and in the country. So we need to really work on things like that. We have mental health. We don't have no detox center in Oxnard. We have a lot of things we need to be working on. We need to be bringing service providers and resources, and I can bring that. So again, I tell you to vote Lucy Cartagena for Oxnard. You can find me at lucycartagena.com. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you to all the candidates. Before we wrap up, I want to do 2 things. One is thank all of our volunteers at the League. You met Betsy Patterson earlier. Pat Essick is the head of voter services. And we have tonight Elizabeth, Cheryl, and Maddie all helping us. We have a quick short presentation for everyone here that's watching. And this is about planning your vote. So Every registered voter received a mail-in ballot, and you should have those by now. You can return those through the post office. You can drop them off at a secure ballot box. There's several in Oxnard. You can return it to a polling station. Anybody who wishes to still vote in person, just understand that we now have voting centers and it's not the same old polling places. So the drop boxes are now open. You can start returning your ballots. If you don't have a ballot by October 16th, contact the elections department. The league recommends that everybody plan to return their ballot in the mail by October 20th. That'll give the post office plenty of time to make sure it's received by the elections department so that it can be counted on election night. Keep in mind that any ballot that is postmarked November 3rd or earlier will be counted as long as it's received within about 17 days after the close of the election. So it's going to take a while to get results. Be patient. There's a couple of good resources we have. where'smyballot.sos.ca.gov, put out by the Secretary of State. You can enter information there and track your ballot as you return it, where it is in the post office. Has it been received by elections? Visit votersedge.org to find out more about the candidates running in your area and the ballot propositions. Also visit lwvventuracounty.org to find out more about the league and to see a video of tonight's forum or any of the other forums that we're doing in Oxnard or throughout the county. So with that, I'd like to once again thank all of the candidates, thank our volunteers, and remind you we have a second forum tonight at 8 p.m. You can register on the league's website if you want to watch that. That'll be with the mayor, the candidates for mayor. So with that, thank you, Oxnard, and good night.
Good luck, everybody.